Okay, so good evening, good evening, good evening. If you're just joining us, please, just like a cinema, quietly get yourself a place to sit and bring out your notepad, your pen, and we're about getting started. So our speaker is actually at the backstage, and I'm gonna bring in out shortly, but I need us to come. Let's get some persons. Let's get some participants. Let's get us ready. So, if you're here, just kindly drop a comment. Just it could be an emoji, it could be a hi, it could just be anything, but just drop your comment below and get to tell me if you can hear me. So, we want everything to be smooth running. We want you to have a great experience here. So, come on, let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. So, who is here? Who is here? Until you type something, I definitely won't know who is here. So, as you're coming in, just announce your presence. Announce your presence. I'm gonna just do a shout out. I'll mention your name. I will tell you, oh, thank you for showing up. Thank you. And once, I would love to apologize for the delay. We're sorry for starting behind schedule, and but nevertheless we are here, and I'm sure we'll have a nice time. So, thank you, Gabana. Thank you. Yeah. Now, this is actually the last session for this conference. And Gabana, yeah, tomorrow you and one other person, I'm still looking out for another person. You're going to be having a gift from me. I'm not going to tell you what gift, but I'm going to be announcing it in the group. I'm going to say it in the group, and you've been consistent. I remember yesterday I said for those people that will be consistent in the first two four sessions. In the four sessions we'll be having, that they're going to be getting a gift from me. I'm sorry, it may not be monetary because I also need money as bad as it is now. Okay, so but some of my resources will be going out, and this night, tomorrow morning, I'm going to be sending out. Yeah, have a whole lot of resources. They're gonna help us with our learners, and definitely you can see most of our speakers have actually dropped some of the resources and the slides. They've given us their time, their attention, their knowledge, and all of that. Yeah, thank you in advance. That means you're actually holding my leg to it, and you're pressing my neck to it, putting in advance. Don't worry, I'm gonna send you your gifts. Okay, so without further ado, and we are behind schedule, so we're gonna move straight into the discussion for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor, a privilege, and my pleasure to invite this Mrs. Ololade has actually been, anytime I just call her, she's always ready to like, oh, Tom Phonics, let's do it. And this is not the first time we're going to be collaborating, having this kind of session. I mean, we've had it sometime during the COVID in 2020. So that's to tell you that we the relationship between us has been, it's not just now, it has been years back, and she's been there. And trust me, even till tomorrow, I'm going to be calling her to say, oh, Mr. Olade, yeah, we need you here. And hopefully we get to that point where I'm going to say, Ms. Olade, okay, can I pay for your way down to Nigeria just for you to have this conference, not virtual but live. Very soon that should be forthcoming. Thank you, Ms. Olade, for coming in. And ladies and gentlemen, let me bring my special guests. Yeah, Mrs.
Thank you very much.
Olade. Cuckoo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm waiting for that day. I can enjoy the sunshine in Nigeria and quickly go and maybe detour your program. I'll go and visit my friends and families around Lagos and Nigeria. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm so excited. I'm really happy. Reading is something that I'm very passionate about. I love it. I enjoy it. I love seeing children, being able to read. It's the key to knowledge. Being able to read unlocks doors for children. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone. We apologize. There was a bit of a mix up in communication. So I apologize for the late start. I do believe that you will get value for your time this evening. Thank you very much. Um, my name is
Okay, so
Ololade Kuku.
I'm going to be leaving you to the audience. I will be at the backstage. I'm going to
Thank,
take off this my face off, and so the floor is yours. Have fun, man.
thank Thank you. Thank you very once again, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Ololade Kuku. I've got a Facebook group called and a YouTube channel called Lola's Reading Corner. It's been a while since I've been there, but what I do is I share tips with practitioners and parents on how to help their children develop reading skills. So this evening, Mr. Samuel has invited me to talk about phonics and vocabulary development. Now, I know that one of my colleagues in the past sessions, one of the sessions before mine, has talked about phonics. And, phonics is simply put an approach that educators use to teach children how to read. It goes back to being able to identify, to hear, and to manipulate sounds in words. It also goes to being able to map the sounds, the phonemes to graphemes, which is the letters. So to be able to recognize that the letter A can make different sounds. It can be the A in apple, it can be the A in angel, it can be the A in any, and so on and so forth. Now, there are different approaches for teaching phonics. We might have a strict phonics approach where you probably have a subscription to a phonics scheme like Read Write Inc. or Jolly Phonics or Letters and Sounds, name it, or your own specially curated scheme, kind of streamlined for your school. We have whole word approach, where you're simply looking at word families, spelling patterns, and we also have a more multi-sensory approach to teaching reading where all of the senses are used. And I know that my colleague Mr. Victor Gubeko has already spoken about that, especially linked to the Montessori approach to teaching reading. So I'm not going to flog that horse. It's been well dissected. Now the part that I want to focus on this evening is vocabulary development. And when we talk about vocabulary, according to the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, this vocabulary is simply all the words that a person knows or uses. So it could be basic words like have, get, got. It could be kind of like in the middle words like consume, contribution, discussion, pronunciation. It could be really high end words that are linked to maybe specific professions, which we would call jargons. So it could be a medical term like biopsy or amnesia, very specific words. So vocabulary is simply the collection of words that people use, whether in speaking or in writing, the words they know and the words they use. And when you think about vocabulary development, it's simply how people acquire these words. It's how people acquire these words. Now, we're not going to take it too far because we're not talking about adults. The key here is the children. So our audience is the children. We're trying to get children to develop their vocabulary. And how can we do that? Linking in with phonics. Now, when you think about it, just to give a very quick outline about the word vocabulary, when you teach vocabulary, whether in maths or English or science or geography, whatever subject, there are three tiers to vocabulary. So there we have tier one words, which are your everyday words, like, and they're usually the easily phonetically decodable words, like your cat, your run, your son, 10, cot, book, phone, shout, words that children can easily, once they've got a very good uh, effective instruction in phonics and phonemic awareness and phoneme manipulation, kids can use that knowledge onto that word to either break it apart, break it into chunks, map out the sounds, and say the word. Now, there are also words that children use in their everyday discussion. There is hardly a 1 year old or that doesn't know what a phone is. Now that 1 year old might not be able to read the word phone when you see it in print, but it is a word they're very familiar with. It is a word they use every day. It's a word that they know. So that's a tier one word, easily used words used in everyday conversations. You have your tier 3 words. Now, your tier 3 words are the words that you use in very, like I said earlier, very specific professions. So in medicine, they might use word like hypertensive or diabetes or dialysis or biopsy or amnesia. And if you're not in that line, that word will look like, oh, this person is blowing big grammar, but it's just very specific word. In science, it could be words like electrolyte, isotope. It could be words like titanium. Um, in economics, we would use words like fiscal policy. We have words like productivity, equity, foreign exchange. Now, all those words are very, very specific. And if you're not studying for a degree in economics or a degree in some form of medical degree, you're not going to be interested in those words. Now, for children that we teach at the primary school level or even the secondary school level, but I will stick to what I know, which is primary school, we're looking at the tier 2 words. These are the words that have contextual meaning. Now, it's one word, but it could be used in different forms. Therefore, children need to be able to read the words. They're not as short as their phonetically decodable words, but they can use their awareness of sounds, their phonic skills, their knowledge to break down the word and then begin to add those words to their portfolio, to their repertoire of words that they will use. Now, the key thing about tier 2 words, which are also, the vocabulary in tier 2, is that they're the words that children need in order to understand what they're reading. The word book, cat, fat, mat. Kids don't need to, there's not a challenge for them to understand those words, because from the music, the cartoons, the books you read to them, they know what a cat looks like, they know what a hat looks like, they know what a dog looks like, they know what a phone looks like. There's nothing extraordinary about those words. But when I say to a child in pardon the terms, I would say reception. Reception would be children at age 4, I believe. So I don't know, I'm not very sure what class that relates to in Nigeria, but say 4 and 5 year olds. If they were to read a book, so say for example, I have the book Fat Cat on a Mat. They already know the word fat cat. They know the word mat. Those are their tier 1 words. But if I open this book and I start to look at the word fat cat flees up a tree, they know fat, they know cat, they know tree, they know the word up. But the word flees, even though the word is spelled flees, they can use their knowledge of phonics to go fleas. They have no clue what that word means. They're not quite sure. They're not able to tell you that the word flees means to run away. Some of them might. It depends on their background. But a typical 4-year-old might not be able to tell you what the word flees mean. And it's also quite contextualized to this passage. Therefore, that word flee would be a new word in that child's vocabulary development. It will be a new word that you, as the teacher, as the parent, would then need to instruct them on what the word means. We need to give a very clear definition to show the child that this word flees means to run quickly, not just to run, but to run quickly. So the child reading that word again then goes, fat cat flees up a tree. They begin to understand. And every time they see the word flees, one, they can decode that word already. Two, hopefully they remember your instruction or a picture linked to it, and they know the word flees means to run. And who knows, maybe you might see them the next day running from a spider. And if they're a very bright child, why are you running? I'm fleeing from a spider. I don't know, but children are they're very, very intelligent in how they adopt and adapt words. In this same book, it says, I don't like bees. Yeah, a child who's got good and effective phonics instruction can decode the word like. It's got the split I or the special E or the magic E, as people call it, and can decode the word bees. But when you say the word yelps, again, they probably haven't seen that word before, nor have they heard the word before. But because they already know how to map the sounds to the letters, the child can decode that that word says yelps. But yelps, what does that mean? They have no idea. It's a new word. They have used their knowledge of phonics instruction to break the word apart, to map the sounds, and understand that the word is yelp. But this is a new word that they need to develop in order to understand this passage. That's a new word that they need to get in order to understand the passage. If I go to a next page, it has words like it is bad luck. It is bad luck. She moans. Again, with good phonics instruction, they can map out the OA as the sound that represents the sound O, moans. But what does that mean? Very rarely do we say to get stop moaning. We would say stop complaining, stop whining. I don't know. But moaning, it's a tier two word that the child might not know. So phonics is the first step. Without you actually sitting down and reading the book with the child, that child can decode the word flees, moans, groans, yelps. But your part as the parent and the practitioner is to then help the child understand what the word means, to then expose the child to the use of the word as many times as possible so that next time they see the word, they can say flees, moans, groans, yelps, and they understand what it means. And they understand very quickly what it means. Now, what's the purpose of developing vocabulary? It's for reading comprehension. I've got my notes here, so I might be popping my head here once in a while. It's to be able to understand what you're reading. Again, if I'm a child and I'm reading this book and I don't understand what the word yelps, moans, flees, groans, stuck, if I don't understand what those words mean, I can read the book well because I've been instructed in phonics. I've got phonics instruction that allows me to break down the words, but I won't be able to understand those words. Therefore, it is a new word. It's a word that I need to get the meaning or the definition of, so that when I read the text again, I understand better. Now, there are like almost two aspects to reading. There's first the mechanical part where children are just applying their knowledge of phonics. But the only one of the aims of reading is to understand what you've read, is to be able to get the message that is being passed across to you through the words. So phonics, first step, allows children to be able to access the word first, to be able to decode the word, to be able to use their knowledge of sounds, depending on what level they're on or they're at, stage one, stage two of phonics instruction, they can access the word and they can decode the word and they can say the word. But then what does the word mean? So that's the other part. That's where phonics sits side by side with vocabulary development. I remember I got three children. I remember when my first was in primary one, and I was reading a book, my own very adult books, and it had the word discipline on it. I can't remember, probably the discipline that works. I can't remember, but it had the word discipline. And she said, "What does that word say?" So she could read that, she could read and she could read works. But she couldn't, read the word discipline. I said, "Use your phonic sound." And then she goes, discipline, because the I and the E is a split sound and it says I, and she knows C says a k sound, so she goes discipline. But her face started to change. Like, I've kind of heard a word that sounds like this word before, and this is not quite how I've heard it said. And then she goes back and goes, the discipline that works. And I go, try again. And then she goes, the discipline that works. And the only reason she could do that was because her speaking vocabulary, her listening vocabulary, she had heard me time and time again say, "You're going to get you're going to get a bit of discipline in a moment. I'm going to discipline you in a moment. You're going to get it in a few." So she had heard the word discipline, but she had never seen it in print. Her knowledge of phonics as a 5-year-old then allowed her to decode the word, but then she needed me to then explain within context what that word means. So, for the whole point of vocabulary development is so that when we present a child with a book, age appropriate book, they can read and they can understand. They can read what it says, but they also understand. Another reason why we're thinking about children's vocabulary development is for oral language skills. Now, children are talking, they're talking to themselves in the playground. Maybe they have a presentation, there's the end of the year program, and they need to present something and they're talking. Yet the degree of vocabulary that a child uses, impresses you, because then it's not just the basic words of, we went to school, then I was running from a spider. They can use far deeper words. They can go to those tier two words and use that to show, a level of I'm not saying that's an assessment for intelligence, but to show that they have this repertoire, this portfolio, this vocabulary that they can use. Now, when you think about vocabulary, you're thinking we have listening vocabulary, speaking vocabulary, reading vocabulary, and writing vocabulary. So there's quite a lot that we're expecting little children to do. But that's where, for me, someone who's passionate about reading, you as teachers, as parents, you're in that first advantage position or vantage position of building your child's listening vocabulary through the books you read. Now, your child might be in primary one, 5-year-old, but in terms of what they can listen to, you can easily read them a book that a primary 3 child would read. Doesn't mean they will understand every single word. And they might tell you, what does that mean? What does that mean? But the words that they're able to be exposed to is way higher than their age. I'm not saying go and read, always present a child with a comprehension passage from primary 3 when they're in primary 1. But I'm saying if you're reading a book, if I were to read um, this book, I've got a child now in year 2, which is primary 2. If I were to, and I teach a year 5 class, a primary 5 class, if I were to read him this book, he will get the general gist of it without necessarily understanding every single word from this book. So that's what I'm saying. You have the vantage position of building children's listening skills. If you build their listening skills, side by side with that, you're building their speaking skills if you allow them to talk, if you give them the opportunity to communicate, to tell you about their day, to explain how they know that this is what's happening. They build their speaking skills. That's why you see videos where children are using these grand words and you're like, you're just 4 years old or 6 years old. Where did you get this word from? They got it from either their teachers or their parents. They might not even know what that word looks like in print, but they've heard it so many times. They've heard it in a contextual, they've been able to contextualize the meaning of the word, therefore they're able to say it. When my last child, who is a boy, when he was about 2, when we're talking, he'll be, stop arguing, mommy. Doesn't know what the word arguing means, but he knows I say it to him when we're talking, or I'm saying it to his sisters, you don't argue, stop arguing. And he starts to use it. So every time somebody's talking to him, he goes, stop arguing. He doesn't understand what that word means, but he knows the word arguing. That's in his speaking vocabulary. And that would then translate into his reading vocabulary when, with good phonics instruction, he sees the word arguing. He can see the R, he can see the G, he can see the letter U, the ing sound, that suffix ing, and he can put it together, arguing. I think, oh, that's what it means. There's a bit of a back and forth with words. Now, there are different ways of teaching vocabulary, and it all still boils down to your phonics instruction. If I were to read this book with a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, I would pre-read this book. I would read this book first and bring out all those words that are tier 2 words that I know that child will not understand. Those words that the child needs in order to understand this book. It's not the fat, it's not the cat, it's not the mat. They hear that in their nursery rhymes, they see it in their cartoons, we say it to them. It's those words like the yelp, the groan, the moan, the fleas. Those are the words that I will quickly pre-teach to the child. Get the child to read the words. You know what that word means. Show them a picture or a very short video clip of somebody doing that word if it's an action word, or looking like that word if it's an adjective, and then we can go into the child reading the book. Again, I'm going on the premise that the child who will be reading the book has already been exposed to, decent and effective, outstanding, quality first phonics instruction. Therefore, the child can decode those words. But because I've already gone ahead to pre-teach the vocabulary, the child is able to not only read mechanically, they can read and understand. They can read and understand what they're reading. Again, going back to the reason why phonics with vocabulary development is key, there's no way you can understand a book and not understand the words. The words in there are the vocabulary that you need to have in order to be able to enjoy and understand what you're reading. So the first step that links phonics to vocabulary development is being able to decode the word. If I gave a child in, say, primary one, who should still be exposed to phonics instruction, if I gave them a word like super fragilistic espialidocious. Very, just a ridiculously long word. Or even that's taking it too far. If I go back to my tier 3 words and I gave them a construction word like cornice, the child is like, what's cornice? What does cornice mean? There is no um understanding. Or I look for this all these medical terms for diseases, not the kwashoko one that we all know. It's those really technical words where they have Latin word joined together to make a disease, and the doctors are so proud when they are saying those words. A child will not, one, they might not be able to break down the words, and two, they have no clue what those words mean. So the key again is that those words, they're able to decode them, at least in the first instance, or work around it, and then they can link that word to a listening or speaking word that they have in their repertoire. They can then contextualize the word. Key then is to then begin to repeatedly expose them to that word, so that the final goal is that all of these words, this tier 2 words, become sight words. As educators, we know the sight words in, at, of, should, because, all those words that we want children to just be able to read when they see them. Don't waste time. But we also want those tier 2 words to become words that when they see, they can already say it and they know what it means, and they can then contextualize those words. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of linking the phonics to the word development, to the vocabulary development, to being able to say the words. Now, when you give effective phonics instruction, I know quite there's a bit of a controversy on how should you teach phonics. Or how should you teach reading. I'm all big for phonics, but I'm also an advocate for bringing all approaches together. So if you do phonics instruction, then do word families, which is the whole word approach, but then also do the multi-sensory approach where you're using the visual, the audio, the kinesthetic, where you have small or large movable alphabets. Let everything come together. And in this day of technology, show the child a video clip, show the child a picture, show the child something, or give the child something real that links to that word, so that it sticks a lot. It's reinforced. It's reinforced so that the next time they come to read those words, to see those words, they know what it means, they know how to use it. I'm trying to, because I know we started late and people have things to do. The key here is not just that a child can use their phonics knowledge to decode a word, it's being able to contextualize things. So the key thing in the vocabulary development is being able to contextualize it. I'm trying to look for a word that would have multiple meanings. And if I look in my book, say we use the word culture. Yeah, culture. You can have culture in the sense that, oh, the Igbo culture, does this, or the Yoruba culture does this. But you can have culture in science, where you have, the science students in secondary school building I've forgotten all my science, bacteria culture on something. So it's the same word, still decodable for children if they know, if they've been exposed to good phonics teaching, but they mean different things. The culture, as a Yoruba person or Igbo person, Hausa person, somebody from Zimbabwe, an Englishman, a Dutch person, is different from culture when you talk about breeding a bacteria culture. They're different things. They're not saying the same thing. Therefore, it's being able to contextualize the meaning of words. But the first barrier is broken when children can decode those words. And then the second barrier is you, as the adult, being able to help that child to see what the word means, to see the different meanings of the word, and what does that word mean within the book you're reading, Again, for children to be able to use that phonics knowledge in effectively, we have a lot of work to do beforehand. It's like trying to teach phonics. The easiest way to teach phonics is to start from before phonics. And before phonics is the phonological or phonemic awareness. If you skip that part, the child will still be able to learn phonics, but it might be a bit harder. It might not flow as smoothly. But a child who's got, good phonological and phonemic awareness, oral, manipulation of sounds. Once you then go to the encoding part where you're showing them this is the letter that represents this sound, it's easy for them. It's very easy. They're doing less things at a time. You've already embedded the sounds. Now you're saying all of those sounds that these are the letters that link to that sound. So the first thing is to build on a very solid platform of prior listening and speaking vocabulary. So don't limit children to just basic words, no matter how young they are. Don't limit them to basic words. So you're talking to a 2-year-old and you're saying, pencil, bring it, bring pencil. No, you know, stretch your sentences. Use words that, yes, the child might not be able to decode the word in print, but the more you're saying those words to that child, the more that child is likely to repeat the words to you. And then one day in print, the child can understand that, oh, that word that I say all the time, this is the word in print. This is what it means. So build on a prior knowledge of, wordless books, picture books, the things you're reading to them. Take it through to the phonics instruction. The child can then map out the word and decode the word. Take it through without you being in the picture. The child can read a piece of text, even with this tier 2 words, and then you can begin to break down the word to what it means. You can break down the word to what it means. Now, a child who's had an effective phonics instruction, the pure sounds, the long vowel sound, the diphthongs, the digraphs, the clusters, and all of that, is in a stronger position to acquire vocabulary than a child who hasn't. A child who can independently, and the key word again is that independence. You don't have to be there. A child who can independently have a go and make an attempt at decoding a word stands a higher chance. Even if they don't understand what the word means in the first instance, they have a chance at reading a piece of text, and they can then, metacognition can make them think, you know what, I don't really understand what I've read. I've read all the words, but I don't understand. And they can pinpoint the words they don't understand, come back to you as the parent, older sister, guardian, uncle, daddy, sister, aunt, and you can then break the word down. So a child who is simply doing likely what they did to us in primary school. I can't remember too much. It's not like I'm that old, but I can't remember. But I know we had more of choral reading when we were growing up, or eco reading. The teacher would read, Ade goes to school, Ade goes to school, Eze is a farmer, Eze is a Agbo. Agbo lives in Sapele, Agbo lives in Sapele. His father is in Calabar, his father is in Calabar. We will do that, but we didn't. Without our teachers, we couldn't break down the words. We could read the words. Why? Because they do it every day. We would read that same Agbo. I can't remember the Agbo story again, but we would read those books over and over and over again, and just by sight, by that singular act of repetitive echo and choral reading, we knew the words. That's how we learned to read. We knew the words. But what it meant was, when we came across harder words, when we got to secondary school and there were bigger words that the primary school teacher did not echo read or choral read to us, we would be stuck. We would then have to wait for an adult or somebody who knows the word to say, please, what does this word say? What does it mean? So we're constantly dependent on other people for that first step. But a child who's got good phonics instruction takes away that middleman of waiting for daddy or mommy or uncle. They can have a stab, they can have a go at decoding the word. Now, the part where it doesn't make, and some children might even be able to, because of their listening and speaking vocabulary, they can actually read again, go back, read, and contextualize and use the word in context effectively. So in your phonics instruction, done well, we're building independence in our readers. We're building a level of metacognition. Metacognition is simply children being able to think about how they're thinking or thinking about how they're learning. I've heard that word before. That's not how it sounds when uncle said it. That's not how it sounds when mommy said it. I'm going to go back and read it again using my phonics sounds again. This is the word. Oh, this is how the word sounds. What does it mean? Read the sentence again or read the passage again. and they begin to learn. They're not tied to us, they're not tied to our apron strings in order to become, more effective, more fluent readers. They're not tied to our apron skills in order to get to that end point of reading, which is reading comprehension. Which is reading comprehension. Therefore, in your various schools, whether you have dedicated phonics instructors or your classroom teachers are the ones who teach phonics, it's I think it's highly recommended that you ensure they know what they're doing, ensure that they know. And this has nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with accent. It has nothing to do with diction. No, it's not about the diction. It's about pronouncing the sounds correctly. It's the word car. When I was growing up, I would call that word a car. My daddy has a car. Now, it's not an a sound. It's an r sound. My daddy has a car. And if we can very quickly, from your phonics instruction, get children to recognize that the AR sound doesn't say ah, like we would typically say. And there's nothing wrong with how we talk, because if you go all over the world, people are speaking, allow me, basbos, with their own different tongues, accents, and mother language interference. So there's nothing unique about how we speak. Every country has their own way. Even within the UK, where I am, there are like a million ways that people pronounce words. You stand next to a Scottish person and you're looking at that person like, hmm? Repeat it slowly. Go over the words one by one. Let me write it down. These words you're saying so that I can understand. So there's nothing unique or nothing to be put down about our accent. There is something with if we're not making our vowel sounds very clear. So the word for a child is k, r, car, not ka. Car. Therefore, when children articulate those sounds, when they see it, like I just said, car, when they then see a word like articulate, they will say ah. It's art, you late, articulate. And it might or might not come with any accent depending on the environment, but they can break down that word to say articulate or articulate or articulation or articulate. They can say the word. So the key is not you know a sudden overhauling of how we speak or how we sound. It is saying the speech sounds, particularly the vowel sounds, right. Once children have those vowel sounds right, the short vowel sounds, the long vowel sounds, the diphthongs, they have it right, then they can map that onto words that they see in order to break down those words and say them. Finally, I'm just going to go back to those four things: the listening vocabulary, the speaking vocabulary, and the reading. I'm not going to go back to writing because we're not in a writing webinar. The listening and the speaking, they're the foundation for your child's reading vocabulary. If you use a lot of tier 2 words with your child in just your regular day-to-day banter, if you're reading them books that are just one step ahead of their age level. So even though they're in reception class, you can read them a picture book that is targeted at a year 1 class, not to ask them comprehension questions or anything. You're just reading for pleasure and you read it regularly. They will then begin to build up a bank of words. When you, as the teacher, as the phonics instructor or the classroom teacher, speak to them and use those tiered words that you want them to develop, they will mirror you. Children often mirror their moms, their dads, and their parents. They mirror what we say. So if you're using those tier 2 words in your communication with them, they will use those words as well. Therefore, coupled with your phonics instruction, you've given them the power to be able to break down a word independently. They can then, try and link. I've heard it before. This is how it sounds. I'm reading it again in this sentence. This is what it means. And before you know it, the children begin to add more and more words, more and more words. Eventually, when you go to another aspect of literacy or language acquisition, which is writing, it's very unlikely that the child who knows how to spell the word, say the word, read the word, moans or yelps or groans, will now go and write the dog cried. No, they're not going to say the dog cried. They're going to say the dog yelped, because they've heard it, it's been used, they can spell it, they can break it down. So I hope I know I don't want to run over too much. In the few minutes that we've spent, the key is to get you to understand. Now, phonics is not just about, oh, let's read. It's not a key to just diction or changing how children talk. Phonics is actually key to, getting our children to read independently, to be able to acquire words. When you're there, when you're not there, a solid 100% effective quality first phonics instruction means that children can attempt to break down a word by themselves, to decode it, and hopefully, because you've used it in your banter, day-to-day talking, conversations, communication with them, they can get the meaning and begin to build up on the words. Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. I think I will stop here. I don't want it to run over. I know there's a Q&A session after this. I hope you gained value from that. If there are any questions, I am willing, to the extent of my knowledge and experience, to answer. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I'm using. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. So I was listening from my other gadget, and thank you very much. I did get some nuggets, and I'm gonna listen to it over and over just to get. You said a whole lot of things, and honestly, let's just say maybe because it's cultural difference or maybe another. You were too fast for me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you know what? I was very conscious. I think on my book here, one of my words there I had here was slow down. Slow down. It was one of the things I wrote, slow down, because I am aware that even, I do talk. And I apologize. I apologize for that. I hope people can watch and watch again. Slow down the speed of the replay and get what I'm saying. I sincerely apologize. Next time I'm invited, I will have the pen beside me. I'll be pinching myself and telling us, slow down, slow down. Thank you.
So if you have any questions, please, we're gonna be waiting so that we can hear the questions. Okay, so in the next in the next 5 minutes, we will be entertaining questions. So please get them ready, get them ready, get them ready. Okay, well, for me, I'm going to be asking some questions. Okay, I'm going to be asking some questions, and just to hope our audience, because I am in Nigeria, I understand my Nigerian audience, and I know that when you get to say a lot of things, especially when the information is too many or too much rather, countable, when it's too much, some persons used to get to ask some questions that in the middle of the information it was actually answered, but they get to they didn't get to hear that loud and clear. Now, you said you made mention of this. We're talking about vocabulary building and being a phonics person and one the literacy, yeah, literacy person. I understand. Now, in register, you've actually used the word tier one, tier two words. You've used that almost 70% of this conversation, and I can bet you if we need to run a data, 80% of the people here may not understand what tier one or tier two words are. You understand?
Okay.
So can you just in few minutes break down what are, or with examples though, what are tier one words, what are tier two words, and what are tier three words, or how can they know between tier one to tier two words and all of that?
Okay, thank you. And this time I'll try to be very, very slow. So when we talk about vocabulary development, there are three tiers to the words that children can use. The tier one words are the words. The tier. Am I still going too fast? No. The tier 1 words are the words like fat, cat, mat, book, phone. Um, can you hear me? You can hear me, right? You can. So there are words like the fat, cat, run, hat, hen, 10, lion, goat, spoon, like. Yeah, those are the very base, and even your high frequency words or the sight words like still, home, happy, some, have, then. Those are tier 1 words, often very easily phonetically decodable because they are your CVC words. So the consonant, vowel, consonant, or a consonant and a consonant, vowel, consonant, like chop, shed. They're your consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. I can't remember any word in that group. Or they're your split e's like your phone, your home, your time, your line. Kids can easily decode those words, but also they use it in their everyday talking with you, their teachers, their friends. There are words that they would find on their what are all these cartoons that they watch. Those are the words that you're not going to find a cartoon that will be saying dialysis or biopsy, or a cartoon that will be saying equity. No. Then, or depreciation. No. They're going to keep it very simple because they understand that it is for children. They're using cat, dog. Those are tier 1 words. Very easy, used regularly, used every day. Tier 2 words could also be, and often are, also phonetically decodable, but they're not the everyday words that children use. So the tier 1 words, everyday words. The tier 3 words are what we Nigerians love to call jargons. And I admit in the past, I used to think jargons just meant nonsense. No, but jargons just mean the words are very specific to a sector. The words are very specific to a profession. So in science, they'll be talking about carrying out a bacterial culture. They'll be talking about titanium. They'll be talking about isotope. They'll be talking about anions, yeah, reflection, refraction, very keywords in science. In economics, they'll be talking about fiscal. I've forgotten some of those things that we did when we were doing our projects and you had to carry out something, but they're keywords to that profession. Now, the tier 2 words are the words that children will come across in the fat cat on the mat. They will come across it in this kind of book. They will come across it in, depending on their age group, this kind of book. They will come across it in, their chapter books for the much older kids. And if they don't understand what those tier 2 words are, they will not be able to understand sentences within that book. They won't be able to. They'll be able to read all the other things, but they won't be able to understand what the author or the writer is trying to say with that sentence. So tier 1 words, everyday words, regular words that even your 2-year-old can say phone, book, the sun is shining, mommy, it's raining. They know those words. Tier 3 words, we're not interested in. We're not yet doctors. We're not rocket scientists. We're not astronauts. So we don't know what they mean. It's not our cup of tea. Tier 2 words, words like ancient, symbol, stomach, pronunciation, compulsory, necessary, nuisance, variety. Kids need to understand what those words mean so that they can understand what a sentence is saying.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I did get a whole lot, and I think I'll be able to break down there into short content so that others can, in the group, others can, because we still take these things into the group for those that actually weren't able to join us in the session.
Yeah.
Okay, someone from Botswana says, and please, what's your Facebook page and any other social media platform?
I'm not big on, well, everybody's big on social media, but with 3 kids and my kind of job, I'm not very prominent there. But I do have a Facebook group called Lola's Reading Corner. and it's also the name of my YouTube channel, Lola's Reading Corner. And the things I do there is just all about reading, teaching phonics. It's been a while, but there's a bit of content on there. So my Facebook page and my YouTube channel, both called Lola's Reading Corner.
Okay, thank you very much. And please look out for Lola's Reading Corner on Facebook. Just type it on the search bar and you'll definitely get the group. And lastly, he still asks the question that isn't body parts form part of tier one's word?
It depends. Now, we would say my belly or my tummy, and that's an everyday word. That's tier one, belly, tummy. But when you go esophagus, you're going stomach. Those are not tier one words. Nobody goes, "Did you drink the water? Did the water go down your esophagus very easily?" No. Your throat is what we will say, which would be a tier one word because the children already know, oh, my throat is hurting, mommy. I can't swallow very well. My throat hurts. That's a tier one word. But when you're talking esophagus, small intestine, when you're talking rectum, those are not tier one words. Those are words that children need to be, they can break it down phonetically, but they need to know what the word means in order to understand how it's used in a sentence. So your finger
Oh,
could be a tier one word,
but
head,
add this
leg.
because okay, you're saying something, ma'am?
Yeah, I was saying head, leg, fingers. Those are tier one words. Again, we use them every day. Children know them before they've even ever seen the word finger in print. But nobody, I haven't seen any parent. I've got 3 kids. I never once said to them, "Does your esophagus hurt?" No, it's not a thing. So that word esophagus will be a tier two word when maybe children in year 5 and 6 are dealing with digestion and how our body transports nutrients around our body, how the blood and all that. So it's there's just that slight distinction in, do we use this word every day? After a while, tier two words might become they might be seem like your tier one words. Why? Because children know them and they use them, and that is the goal, so that those words become everyday words that children are used to.
You know, while growing up, most of us didn't really get the esophagus, the larynx, the pharynx, the velar, the velum, and
Then he's getting it.
even the esophagus. It wasn't called esophagus. It was called Adam's apple. I think, yeah, Adam's apple while we
Yeah,
were growing up.
nobody knows, and that's why if they didn't break it down, we still wouldn't have a clue what the word is saying. We have no clue what it means. The basic thing you say to a 5-year old is, "Does your throat hurt? Is there something stuck in your throat?" And esophagus is just a fancy word, kind of like a higher word for throat. The water is going down your esophagus. It's simple. That's what it is.
Thank you very much. You brought this into limelight. So, okay, just please, ma, just some minutes before we call it a night. Okay, for those in Africa, because not just looking at Nigeria, I'm looking at Africa. One of my advocates, I advocate phonics in just Africa continent because um, we love to copy, and most of us copy and miss. We copy and
Mm,
miss. We take everything from there, and we just want to use the without
yes.
trying to look at our own culture, without trying to look at what helps us, or how can we incorporate the other culture and our culture to come up with words. Because even this morning session we had Miss Blessing. She talked about dyslexia and
Mm,
dyslexia and difficulties in letters and sounds. And yesterday, last night, Mr. Victor, you know him quite well now. You know he's really an advocate and he fights very well when it comes to phonics. So he talked about multisensory approaches to
mhm,
phonics.
yes.
And
Mhm,
like today, Miss Blessing talked about dyslexia and she talked about the letter sounds. And like what you just said, some few minutes, bring all the approach together, bring everything,
yes.
all the multisensory. And funnily
Yeah.
enough, all the speakers have actually been saying the same thing. Bring everything, just everything, because if you're looking at one aspect or one approach,
Aspect.
then you are cheating some learners, because
Mm-hmm.
some learners
There'll be
only
a
get one
deficiency.
approach, some others get the
Yeah,
other approach, and
yeah,
all of
you're
that.
right.
As an
Yeah.
advocate, for me, I when I consult for schools, and they were like, "Oh, don't worry, we're doing Jolly Phonics and all of
Funny,
that," and
funny,
I tell them, what are the pros and cons of Jolly Phonics? Jolly Phonics,
funny, funny.
just one person
Exactly.
actually brought, it's one person's program and it's one person initiative, and I usually tell them that I am not against Jolly Phonics, but do you know
Mm.
that when this program was instituted, they weren't thinking about your children in
Your
Nigeria. They weren't
children.
thinking about
Mhm.
your, children in
Mhm.
Africa. We're looking at our own children. Even the UK curriculum, it's not Nigeria specified,
No,
because
no.
I'm also a curriculum theorist, and you would see one part of the UK's curriculum that would say Welsh, Scotland, just for island people
Yeah,
alone.
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
meant for
yeah.
these
It's not.
islands.
It doesn't
So
cut across. You're right,
where's
sir.
an island here in Nigeria? Should not say Port Harcourt and Yoruba people. Because their curriculum
Really,
was localized. It was meant for their
mm,
local,
for their own,
for
yes,
the
you're
local.
very right.
Yeah.
For the
So,
environment.
um, um, why I'm bringing up this is because the audience we have here would want to ask some, tribal questions, and someone just asked that now. Okay, we are saying tier one, tier two, and tier three. Even the way you've broken it down to, like, if I want to break it down that way, tier one words are actually short sounds, long sounds, the basics
Yeah,
of
exactly.
reading,
Everyday
speech,
word. Yeah,
yeah, where you can teach the reception class,
year
the
one,
nursery
year
one,
two.
the
Yeah,
lower primary. I think that's what
exactly.
many people want to hear.
Yes,
That's
yes, yes.
what everyone hear. Now, going to tier two words, then you are talking about, okay, year two, year three,
Year
primary
three,
four,
exactly.
because you are
Mm-hmm,
getting into chapter readings, and all of that.
exactly.
And someone actually asked this question now, because in tier three words, that's when affixes come to play, the root
Mhm.
words, the
The
prefixes,
rootness,
and
yeah.
the affixes.
Suffixes and all of that,
Now,
yes.
let's ask the same question now. Please, how do you teach root words as it concerns spelling? I'm not going to answer that. I want you to answer it.
So I would say when you think of the word, let me look for a word here that I've got. Uh Shiver. Let's use the word shiver. It's just one of the first word that I've seen. Shiver. Obviously, children know what it means. Oh, somebody's shivering, they're cold. Yeah, that is the root. That is a root word. Shiver on its own as a verb that shows that you're cold. It's the reaction of your body. Then, if I put it in the word shivering, he was shivering because he was feeling cold. Shivering has become a word that has a suffix added to it. The suffix there is ing. If I show a child, even a year two child, the word shivering, because they have good phonics, they've been, the instruction in phonics is top notch. They'll be able to do sh, eh, v, shivering. We can then break that word and say, okay, what is a word that you recognize within that word? And very quick, hopefully very quickly, the child can say, I know, I've seen the word shiver before. Shiver, ing. So we can then say to them that ing is simply a suffix that tells us that action is happening in the moment. I am shivering right now. If we take that suffix away and put the suffix ed, the boy shivered because he was cold. Again, the child can recognize the word shiver. Then we're saying to them that ed is a suffix that we actually add onto verbs to show that they've happened already in the past. So he's not shivering at the moment. We're saying yes because he was cold. So the kids already, by the time you get to year three, where you're doing prefixes and suffixes, they already have those root words, pat down as a result of your phonics instruction. They can break it down. I'm trying to look for maybe Maybe another word that I could use, the word teach. Not a good word because then the past tense is taught. But the word teach, if we add the suffix ing to it, again, it's teaching. Yeah. My teacher is my Mrs. Whatever is teaching me how to read. They already know, they can already decode, they can already read the word teach. Again, we're saying to them that suffix is just telling you something is happening in the present. The root word is teach. The kids know it. Bam. I've taught a year 3 class, a year 4 class, a year 5 class. And when I give them a word, the first thing I say is, what word can you recognize in this word? And they'll begin to bring out. And by the time they've said 3 or 4, they can actually go, oh, I know the root word, miss. This is it. The word teach, if I put RE in front of the word teach, reteach. Again, the kids can tell me, I know what teach means. What does re mean? Obviously, if I've not taught it before, then I can tell them re means to repeat, to do it again. You don't understand what I'm saying? I'm going to reteach this topic. It's as simple as that for spelling. The teach part, they know. Their phonics will, more often than not help them to get that word. The prefixes and the suffixes, they already have a permanent spelling. They're not changing. Meant, ness, shun, add, im, in. They're also set in stone. It's just putting it together to make a word. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, man. So we won't be entertaining any question. Any other question, we're gonna just deliberate it in this group. So thank you, Mrs. Lauder, and thank you for showing up and thank you for sharing your knowledge with me. I hope that you will come back to Facebook fully.
I try. I know the workload. I want to believe is the same in Nigeria, but in the mornings, by the 5 o'clock, I'm off my bed, getting my 3 kids ready to school. We go for a breakfast club. I run to my school. I get back home 6:37. But that time, I just want to maybe play with them for like 30 minutes, read a book. Uncle and aunties go to bed so that I can go to sleep. So it's so hard, to find the time. But I know some people are able to do. Maybe I'm just lazy. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much. I really enjoy talking about reading. I enjoy talking about phonics. I think, giving our children the skill to read is one of the biggest things, the greatest things we can do for them. They can become learners outside of us being there in their face. They can acquire knowledge without us standing on top of them once they can read. Once they can read. It's easy for them to do that.
Not to worry. If there's another opportunity, I'm gonna still drag you out, and like they say, good fish has no hiding space. Place.
Yay.
Thank you very much. So I want you to go back.
Welcome.
So from myself and the audience, want to say thank you and do have a good evening.
And you. Thank you so much, sir. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Bye, man.